Women who are self-employed, who don't have employees, make up 80% of women who are independent earners, really have no one to advocate for them. Over 80% of women use their own personal credit, their own personal savings to start that business. So it's snowball effect of these little things that become real structural barriers.
Today we are moving past the typical empowerment narrative to talk about something much more critical: economic equity. In 2026, self-employed women represent a massive portion of our workforce.
Do things the way that feel right for you, even if they don't look like the way everybody else's businesses look. If it feels right for you, it's probably the right thing to do.
Hello everyone, this is Kripa Anand and welcome to the She and Success podcast, powered by She and Success Business Magazine, a platform dedicated to spotlighting the voices, strategies and journeys of women leaders and entrepreneurs who are shaping Canada's business and policy landscape. Today we are moving past the typical empowerment narrative to talk about something much more critical: economic equity. In 2026, self-employed women and gender-diverse individuals represent a massive portion of our workforce, yet they remain largely invisible in the eyes of economic policy. Joining us today is Nancy Wilson, founder and CEO of the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce. A CPA by trade and recognized as one of the Globe and Mail's 50 changemakers, Nancy has dedicated her career to championing those excluded from traditional chambers. She is here to discuss closing the policy gap and the launch of the new Canadian Economic Campaign. So before further ado, let's welcome this special guest. Nancy, such a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much. I'm pleased to be here.
Now, Nancy, I'd love for you to begin the conversation by letting I'm sure everyone knows about the Canadian Women's Chambers of Commerce, but how did you get into this journey and what started this?
I guess I started like most people. I was out in the traditional workforce. I worked for a long time, as an employee, traditional workforce. I decided to strike out on my own, and found that a lot of the discrimination and barriers that I faced in traditional employment followed me out into entrepreneurship. And I realized that there was no one advocating for women.
Yeah.
And so I started the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
What I've found in the last 7-8 years running the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce is that there's an even more nuanced issue with women who are self-employed, who don't have employees, which make up 80% of women who are independent earners, who are making business or professional income. And they really have no one to advocate for them. So there's quite a bit of impetus with the government to try to support and build up small and medium-sized enterprises, including women who they want to run small and medium-sized enterprise.
Yeah.
But that means employers, not folks who are just running things on their own. And that's 80% of women.
Definitely. I think recognizing these individuals as a distinct economic force is the first step towards creating a business ecosystem that everyone actually supports from within. Now, Nancy, let's quickly explore how access to capital remains a key barrier, specifically for underserved entrepreneurs. So, what systemic barriers limit access to capital for these entrepreneurs, and how can they be addressed from your perspective?
So, as I said, a lot of government policy is directed towards employers.
Yeah.
And that's kind of already pretty far down the journey. The other issue has to do with what sectors are considered risky, less risky, and which sectors are are considered important.
Yeah.
You know, which sectors are kind of trendy, which sectors are high growth.
Yeah.
And when you look at women and a lot of underserved populations, they tend to be working in retail and service sectors.
Yeah.
Why? Because it is relatively easy to start a business in those sectors. It doesn't cost a lot of money. You don't need to buy a big warehouse or a ton of machinery. However, when you try to get a loan at a financial institution, what they want is some collateral to back that loan.
Yeah.
So, do you own a house? I don't. Do you have a ton of machinery that can back as collateral? If you're in the service sector and you work from home, you don't. And so you have to give a personal guarantee. So how good is your credit score? If you use over 80% of women use their own personal credit, their own personal savings to start that business. So how good is their credit when they go to get a bank loan? May not be that good. I know mine wasn't when I used my money to start it. So it's sort of this snowball effect of these little things that become real structural barriers. And then, of course, as I said, government programs. So a great example is the digital, the CDAP program. So this was a program where a couple of years ago, the government was offering a couple $1,000s for digital access to add tech to your company. But the eligibility required that you needed to be an employer. You needed at least one employee. So, but why? You know?
That was a limitation more than it was
exactly
a push.
So what that means is that 80% of women were excluded from that program completely, which is significant, I think.
Yes. Well, definitely this is such a timely conversation to have, and definitely we're going to get her back into the studio for a deeper conversation. To the entrepreneurs and policymakers watching, in 2026, we have to stop treating these barriers as personal failings. When a racialized woman is denied a loan at a rate significantly higher than her peers, or when 61% of women-owned businesses have less than $10,000 in startup capital, that is a systemic failure, not a lack of resourcefulness. Nancy's work proves that these founders are already resilient. They just need an even playing field. Equity isn't a nice to have. It's the only way to build a sustainable modern Canadian economy. Visit canwcc.ca to join the advocacy. We're going to take a short break right here, but don't go anywhere because we'll be right back with Nancy Wilson.
At Purolator, we understand the importance of every delivery, whether it's a document, a special gift, a critical healthcare shipment, or an entire warehouse worth of inventory. Throughout our more than 60-year history, we've honed our expertise to build out a powerful portfolio of logistics services that enable us to deliver on every promise. Whether shipping across town or around the globe, from small and medium-sized businesses to industrial, technology, retail, and healthcare sectors, Purolator serves a diverse array of customers. So no matter what, where, or when you're shipping, Purolator's expertise, experience, and innovative solutions enable us to deliver on your promises.
Welcome back to the She and Success podcast. Let's continue our conversation with Nancy. Now, moving into the last segment of the conversation, let's discuss how unpaid care work impacts business growth and sustainability. So, Nancy, building on that, please go ahead and educate our listeners. How does unpaid care work impact the growth and well-being of self-employed individuals?
So it really comes down to simple math. Their time is finite. There's 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
And in any given hour, if you are spending it taking your 12-year-old to the dentist or buying groceries for your parents, you're not spending it on your business. You're not spending it finding the next contract or working on a marketing strategy. And those are the choices that a lot of folks have to make. And, you know, the stats show that women and a lot of newcomers, regardless of gender, spend a lot more time on caregiving than than others in our society. So those caregiving hours are hours that are not spent on business development and billable hours. When you're self-employed, as opposed to being employed or otherwise, you don't get sick days. You may not get weekends off. Not to say that employees are having this, cushy situation. I'm not saying that at all. But for sure, when you're self-employed, no sick days, no paid vacation, no vacation at all. No, if you're not working, you don't get paid at all. Yes. So when you are taking on caregiving tasks, you're not only unpaid, those hours actually are decreasing your earning potential.
Definitely. That makes a lot of sense. Acknowledging care work as economic factor is essential for designing policies that allow women-led businesses to actually grow and thrive. I'm loving this conversation, and definitely, as I said, I'd love for Nancy to be back. But for now, before we let her go, Nancy, if there's one final piece of advice that you have for women entrepreneurs who are still hesitant to take that first leap of faith, if you could whisper one thing into their ear, what would it be and why?
It's not easy. It's going to be really, really hard. But what I often say to folks, if they want to do it, is trust your gut, trust yourself. You're going to get a ton of advice from all the people in your life. A whole lot of strangers are going to give you advice, and a lot of that advice is not going to be asked for, but you're still going to get it. And some of that advice may seem like it's well-intentioned, and I'm sure it is, but do things the way that feel right for you, even if they don't look like the way everybody else's businesses look. If it feels right for you, it's probably the right thing to do.
That's a golden advice for all the women, the powerful people who are listening to this. That was Nancy Wilson from the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce. A masterclass in moving beyond the empowerment narrative to fight for true systemic equity for 1 million Canadian entrepreneurs. To all the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to the She and Success podcast, powered by She and Success Business Magazine. Be sure to subscribe for more expert insights and visit sheandsuccess.ca for more such resources. And lastly, a very special thank you to our exclusive shipping partner, Purolator, for their ongoing commitment to supporting women entrepreneurs and helping them build, grow, and lead successful businesses across Canada. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Kripa Anand signing off.